Normally, I don't read from a script. I guess y'all figured that out as I pace around and talk and do. But today, as I was studying for this and preparing for this, I came upon actually a sermon that someone else had written, and it hit me hard because I started reading about some of the things about love, and I was like, you know what? I just can't do this better, so I'm just going to. So if y'all will forgive me, it's not all my words today. It's always God's words and how it's been put. So I'm sure that I'll go off on a rabbit trail somewhere, so just follow me. So, gracious God, I ask that the words that you put on my heart, that they be acceptable to you, that it will be the words that people need to hear today. We give you the glory. Amen. So like April was saying, 1 Corinthians 13, it's one of the most familiar chapters. It's a beautiful chapter in the Bible. You hear it read at weddings. I read it time and time again at weddings. You hear it read at anniversaries. We know it's even been set to music. And sometimes, kind of like maybe the 23rd Psalm, we say it or we hear it time and time again, and they just become words. And we kind of forget to reflect on what they really mean. I know this was one of the first scriptures I ever learned. When I was a little girl, we lived on Main Street, and there were no children on the street. And there was a church behind us that one year they had 3 children come in, and that were, part of the family. And so I was so excited because I was going to finally have some playmates. However, there was one stipulation. If I was going to play with them, I had to come to their Bible school and learn their catechism. So that was fine because I love to memorize, and that was fine, But this was one of those first ones I ever learned, and I never thought a thing about anything except getting the words right. As a child, you don't think about the memory. It's all about the memory. You don't think about the meaning. So, that's why I printed out the scripture for you guys, because I'm kind of going to go through it verse by verse. And so that way, if you want to kind of follow along, if you want to make notes or whatever, or if you just want to, make it into a paper airplane and fly it, you can do that later at Michelle's house, not in here. So, first of all, in 1 Corinthians 13, this is Paul talking to the Corinthians. Now, he was not in a real good mood when he was writing this. He was actually rebuking a dysfunctional church, because here they had this big church that was coming all up in Corinth, and they had members like Paul that were there that were coming in to help, and Apollo, and all sorts of people that were, they were like way up there in the church, and people were receiving gifts. Like the tongues and prophecies and things like that, but then it was like, well, I want to sing like you, or I want your gift. I don't want my gift, I want your gift, or you want my gift. And everybody wasn't happy with the gifts that they had. They wanted somebody else's gifts. Well, that kind of ticked Paul off. It was like, oh, y'all, we ask God for God's gifts. God gives us the gifts that we need, not necessarily the ones that we want. God gives us the gifts that are going to lift up and bring the body of the church together, not so that you will be jealous of something somebody else has. Y'all heard in the very beginning when Cindy and Denise weren't there, when I tried to lead music, that was not pretty. So that's not a gift I asked for. I used to try to sing, but that was a used to be. And so what we look at today is love. Now, a lot of us love things. SEC football, love it. Pizza, I used to love it until I became allergic. I even have to admit, I used to love beer till I became allergic to it. God's got a great sense of humor. Some of us love our jobs, some of us don't. Some of us love... you can just continue on thinking about the different things you love. However, those are emotional loves. And love is actually an action verb. Or at least it is in this particular context. He talks about love being seen and being experienced and being demonstrated. We tend to be, in this culture, I don't necessarily think about us because many of us are middle-aged and above, but we know some of our younger people, like my son, or one of my sons, or both of my sons. If they feel like it, they'll do it, but if they don't feel like it, they're really not going to do it. And there are just some things in life that just is not healthy. We need to have commitments. We need to be held accountable. And if you don't feel like loving somebody, well, you need to rethink that. Now, doesn't mean you have to like them. I'm just talking about loving one another. Now, so what Paul does is he tells us again, it's an action, not an emotion, and we need to know what love is and what it looks like when it's lived out in the church. And so, in these 13 verses, Paul really gets into the distinctions of love. First of all, he lets them know that it is greater than any spiritual gift. So, he starts off, if I speak with the tongues of men and angels and don't have love, you're just noise. That's all you are. Some people wanted to speak in tongues. I know I've heard people who say they speak in tongues. Now, I am under the impression that if someone is speaking in tongues, there's going to be someone there that's able to understand what they are saying. And yet, I've seen it happen where that really isn't the case. Or maybe it is and I'm not aware. I'm not going to stand and be judgmental. But what I find sometimes is that it becomes noise. It becomes a distraction where people are turning around and looking and and sometimes it can take away. It becomes a noise. And so if you're just doing it to show that you can speak in tongues, that's it. It's just noise. Paul says you can speak in tongues all you want, but if you don't have love, you're merely making a lot of noise. As he goes into more spiritual gifts, if you can have the gift of prophecy and know everything, and if you have faith, where you've had to really hold on to your faith so that things happen, so that you can truly put your trust in God, and it's like, oh wow, yes, I've been living by faith, I walk by faith. But if you don't have love, they're just words. You can think that you can prophesy, or have this great knowledge, or a unique ability to trust God. And sometimes you think that some of the things we do might be noble. Giving to the poor is a good thing to do. But if you're giving to the poor so that someone can see you giving to the poor, so that you make a big deal about giving to the poor, that's not out of love. That's out of, look at what I'm doing. The 3 verses come up like this. Oh, and you could even go to the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, you can be martyred. It talks about here being martyred. But if I lay down my life and saying that I'm doing it in God's name, and I wonder sometimes about some of these poor young folks over in the Middle East who have been talked to about how great they will glorify God if they put on that bomb and they go explode because they're doing it for God. They're not doing that out of love. And I'm not trying to be judgmental on these folks. However, if you don't have love behind what you're doing, it's just really nothing. Without love, I say nothing. Without love, I am nothing. And without love, I gain nothing. And so when we have spiritual gifts, whether it be here in the church or out in the public, we do these things for genuine love of people. We need to put our hands and feet to our love. And we are going to be doing that. This church is absolutely going to be doing that. So I'm not here trying to say we've got to get going, because we are going to get going. We're moving very, not strategically, that's a bad word. Not really a bad word, but thoughtfully. Thank you. But yes, we're moving very thoughtfully as we as we progress and grow, because we want to do not have too many things going on and have everybody spread thin. But we will be getting into working in the community. So we will be putting hands and feet to our love. And so, one of the things that Paul says is that love is patient. We've heard it also in King James Version about long suffering. So Paul might be saying that love doesn't have a short fuse. Doesn't lose its temper real quickly. Love never says, I'm going to give you one more chance and that's it. Love is patient. I don't know about you, but as the older I get, one, some things don't matter as much. But two, I seem at times to be more patient, and then at other times I'm just that crotchety old person. But I try to be more that loving person and to have patience with people. And as we all continue to mature, we don't ask for patience. That's one of those things that's like, don't pray for patience, because then you'll be given things that you have to be patient about. You know, we get enough things without praying for more patience. So, sometimes I like to say, God, when I pray and I ask for things, I want you to make me aware of what I'm working on when I'm going through those things. But no. So don't come up to me and say, would you pray for patience for me? And be like, no, you won't like me after that. Not that you need to like me, but it's one of those things where, yeah, if you start getting a whole lot of things you need to be patient for, you're going to be real sorry. All right. Paul tells us that love is kind. Now, when we talk about being kind, it's not about giving somebody everything they want. Sometimes love is tough. Some of you have maybe experienced in your life having to go through withdrawals because of addictions. Tough love. Sometimes it means confronting a friend in kindness and in love about maybe something that's interfering in their life, but it's done through love. And so there it is, it becomes comfort. It doesn't mean cowing down to a spoiled child or to my grandson and giving him everything he wants, although I'd like to sometimes. Love is not jealous. True love desires the success of others. Sometimes we do become jealous of other people. I think it's just part of our natural emotions to sometimes go, I can't believe so-and-so has all the luck, and you sometimes become jealous of some of the things that someone might have. Or maybe success that someone might have. Sometimes people are jealous of how another person is performing. That can happen in any field. It doesn't have to be in the pastoral field. It can be any field. People at the hospital used to get mad at me because my employees liked me. That made me appear in other people. Some people were jealous of me. And I said, well, it's just about including everybody. You being a personal part of the team, the person that goes in the trenches with them. That's what, to me, being a good boss was to show them that I was willing to do whatever they were doing and to get down there and get down and dirty with them. I didn't want them to be jealous of my position as their boss because that didn't make me any better. And other managers sometimes were like, I don't understand why people never quit working for you. And it's like, because I go that extra mile, because I don't mind covering the slack. We think about our work. Friends do. I don't know about the postal service, but I'm sure sometimes somebody might pick up for you and help you out a little bit or whatever. But I don't know. No, they don't. Okay. Never mind. Bad example. Okay. Well, sometimes Denise has people come in and they'll make phone calls or they'll help her clean up, and sometimes even her clients see what you know, how behind she's getting or what a rush she's in, and all of a sudden they just come in and they pitch in and they start helping her. That's done out of love. That's not out of jealousy of her being a great hairdresser or anything like that. It's because it's part of being a team. All right. Love does not brag. Love is not an egotistical blowhard. And basically what happens a lot of times when you see, kind of the more loving you become, the less you really need to boast about it. I mean, you will see, especially with people who are starting to rise up into whether it be in corporate America or in a church or anything like that, they think they all that. Oh yes, I did this and I did that and I married all these people and I went to and I did this, you know, how good I am, you know, patting themselves on the back. Well, as you become more filled with love, you don't need to toot your own horn. You really don't. People see what you're doing. You don't have to tell them about it. And some of the things you're doing, people may never see, but you know who knows what you're doing? God. Your integrity oftentimes can be measured by what you do when nobody's looking. I mean, we've seen that written, we've heard that, and that's absolutely right. You know, when you go and somebody gives you the wrong change. I used to have the hardest time, here goes a little rabbit trail. I used to have the hardest time raising my boys because their father was one that if they would go through the line, say, let's just say McDonald's, and somebody gave them the wrong change, instead of saying, I'm sorry, you gave me too much change, he would go, aha, and put it in his pocket. Now, we may have all done that once before, but I didn't feel like that was a real good lesson to be teaching my boys, that you take advantage of other people's mistakes. No, you give them that money back because you do it in love, knowing that they're going to get in trouble if the cash register doesn't come out the way it's supposed to be. You do it because it's the right thing to do. You don't do it because the whole town's watching you do it. You're not going to go and say, oh, guess what I did? You're not going to go call and tell everybody how good you are because, somebody gave you the wrong change. They thought it was a 50 and it was only a 5. I mean, we've probably all had that happen at some point. Maybe not with a 50. But still, we do the right thing because we know it's the right thing. We've all been in jobs, probably, where we could get chastised for screwing up. So, love is also not arrogant. Arrogance a little more than bragging because it's looking for that praise. Arrogant people, you probably know some of them. You've probably come in contact with them. They will push themselves into leadership and they don't really care who they step on or who they mess with to get to where they're going. Arrogance disrespects other people. See, God calls us to serve people and be gracious to them, not to use them as stepping stones to get where they think that they should be, to step all over them. At Baptist Healthcare, we had a young man, and he had been a therapist, and he had actually been a student of mine a long time ago. And he made the mistake of telling us that he really wasn't going to do therapy for long because he was going to be an administrator. And he really didn't care who he screwed on his trip up. And sure enough, he got all the way to the top. But then arrogance takes over. Oh, I'm so good, I can't do any harm, I can't do this, I can't, people, they just respect me, they just